She built her life on scandal. But this time the scandal isn't hers. It's against her, and it changes everything. What if I told you that one of Hollywood's most closely guarded secrets hides a story about betrayal, billions of dollars in revenge that could forever change the Kardashian empire? What if all that glitz and glamour we see on red carpets actually masks one of the most ruthless business schemes in entertainment history? Today we are going to reveal a story you were probably never supposed to hear, a story about how Kim Kardashian seemingly lost the biggest opportunity of her life, and how it is probably connected to a young actress who suddenly started showing up everywhere. But warning, what you are about to learn might forever change how you look at the Kardashian family. I got married in Italy. Am I saying you copied me by getting married in Italy who performed at my wedding? Andrea Bocelli seems like you stole my wedding country and my wedding performer. This might be the real American horror story that Kim Kardashian would probably want to keep buried forever. Picture this scenario: you have everything you ever dreamed of. Your perfect life seems to be sitting right in your hands. Millions of dollars global fame. A business empire that brings in hundreds of millions annually. You are a cultural icon whose name is known, from Los Angeles to Tokyo. But suddenly your ex-husband shows up with someone who looks like your exact copy, after publicly embarrassing you with your last love. This is not just divorce pain. This is public humiliation in front of millions of fans, worldwide. And then after years of whispers that you might have been leaking internal secrets from your own empire for personal gain, you discover something shocking. The billionaire you considered your golden ticket to the next level of wealth. A level that would put you alongside the most influential people on the planet. Your imaginary fairy godfather makes a cold, calculated move instead of helping you achieve true business mogul status. He hands over an opportunity that could be worth billions of dollars straight to your younger, more attractive, and let's be honest, more culturally relevant rival. And the worst part of it all, he uses your own secrets, your own strategies against you somewhere right now. Kim might be burning with rage, and we need to figure this out. Sources close to the situation say Kim could have been going crazy with anger when she found out about Bezos. Real intentions. Some insiders even hint that she was considering lawsuits against Jeff Bezos himself. Imagine those headlines, honestly. If this were true, many of us would pay big money to see how this unfolds in court, just to witness something that even the most powerful Kardashian PR machine in the world could not spin in their favor or hide from the public, because if there is one person in the business world who seems absolutely immune to smoke and mirrors from even the most skilled manipulators, it is probably Lauren Sanchez's husband, Jeff Bezos. Kim Kardashian has never been a stranger to scandal. In fact, scandal has been the very oxygen of her career. From the moment she broke into mainstream consciousness, she learned how to turn controversy into currency, how to transform private embarrassment into public empire. But what happens when the master of manipulation finds herself outplayed? When the woman who once could spin any story in her favor suddenly realizes she has been cast as the pawn in someone else's game. This is where our story turns darker, because what insiders whisper is that Kim may have believed she was carefully positioning herself for the next level of global influence, using her friendships, her relationships, her carefully curated public image as stepping stones toward billionaire alliances, but instead she walked directly into the trap of a strategist, far colder, far sharper, and far more ruthless than even she anticipated the name. Jeff Bezos carries weight, not just because of the Amazon empire, but because of how he operates. He does not invest for vanity. He does not engage with the public for entertainment. He moves with precision, calculation, and always with long-term strategy in mind. And Kim perhaps thought she could charm her way into his trust. Maybe even play him the way she had played countless others in Hollywood and in business, by appearing close by, whispering secrets, by offering access to the inner workings of her empire. But this time, the rules of the game were different. Imagine the scene at Bezos' lavish wedding to Lauren Sanchez. Cameras flashing, celebrities
before school, and she'd put me in the back of her car. It was at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'd sleep in there while she cleaned a house.
Let's talk about your little guy here. The Fly Who Flew
to Space.
Your children's book. Look,
yes.
I'm 2/3 of the way done. But give me some time. I promise you I'll finish it.
It's really true and dear to my heart. I was flying with my kids, and a fly was stuck in the cockpit.
Kim seemed to be working overtime at the event, perhaps trying to capture the kind of organic, effortless attention that Sweeney commanded with ease, perhaps even redirecting Her energy toward Tom Brady in a very visible attempt to spark interest in herself, yet the contrast only highlighted her desperation. Insiders say the humiliation may have cut deep, because while Kim projected the polished facade of confidence, the truth was that she may have already known that the billion-dollar investment she had been courting from Bezos was slipping out of her hands and landing directly in the lap of her younger rival for years. Kim had been cultivating an image not just as a celebrity, but as a businesswoman. She had launched Skims to critical acclaim. She had created a private investment firm, Sky Investment Partners, and she had been positioning herself as the rare crossover between entertainment icon and financial powerhouse for Kim. This was not about selling shapewear or skincare. This was about cementing her legacy as someone who could transcend reality TV fame and join the elite ranks of moguls whose influence reshaped culture itself. And for a while, it looked like it was working. She mingled in the highest circles. She rubbed shoulders with global leaders. She even aligned herself with high-profile figures in politics and criminal justice reform. All moves that gave her gravitas. But behind the glitz, sources claim she was methodically pursuing one ultimate goal: securing the kind of backing from Jeff Bezos that would forever shield her from the volatility of fame, an investment that would immortalize her as not just a Kardashian, but a mogul on par with Oprah or even Lauren herself. The whispers say Kim opened the vault. She revealed secrets not just to impress Bezos, but to demonstrate her value. She allegedly disclosed Skims, future plans, international expansion strategies, confidential data about customer bases, even potential acquisition talks that had not yet reached the public eye. She thought she was building trust, demonstrating that her empire was worth betting on. But insiders believe Bezos was listening with an entirely different intent. Every secret Kim offered became ammunition. Every strategy she revealed became a blueprint. And instead of preparing to hand over billions to Sky Investment Partners, Bezos may have been calculating a colder move to redirect that potential into someone else. Someone younger, fresher, and unburdened by years of public baggage. And this is where Sydney Sweeney enters, not just as an actress, not just as a rising star, but as the possible chosen vessel for a new empire. Imagine Amazon machine power, global logistics, e-commerce marketing, dominance, all placed behind a new lingerie or lifestyle brand positioned directly against Skims. Only this time without the controversies, without the whispers of surgery, without the baggage of messy divorces or volatile ex-husbands, and with a face that represented everything media consumers currently crave: authenticity, freshness, relatability. Insiders say that this is exactly what cut Kim so deeply. It was not just about losing money. It was about losing the future. She thought she had secured the crown she had been building for decades, ripped away and handed to a rival who did not even have to beg for it. Picture the psychological toll. Kim has always defined herself against comparison, first Paris Hilton, then Taylor Swift, then countless models and influencers who borrowed pieces of her image and brand. Yet this comparison hit differently, because it came not from the tabloids, but from the most powerful billionaire. In the world when Bezos seemingly chose Sweeney over her, it was not just rejection, it was a declaration that her era was no longer the future, that the cultural winds had shifted, and no matter how many platinum wigs or futuristic photo shoots she staged, she could not force authenticity onto herself. It either exists or it does not. And while Kim battled this silent humiliation publicly, she distracted the world with new product launches, extravagant vacations, highly publicized medical treatments. In Mexico, all carefully crafted to keep the cameras pointed her way, yet behind the curtain, the whispers claim she was quietly raging, privately spiraling, and even considering legal recourse. Some insiders claim she mulled the possibility of suing Bezos over what she believed was intellectual property theft. The use of her business strategies against her, imagine those headlines. Kim Kardashian versus Jeff Bezos, a courtroom battle that no PR spin could sanitize, but whether out of fear or strategic calculation, that lawsuit never came to pass. Instead, Kim was left to watch as her role in Sky Capital quietly diminished, her leadership erased from prominent listings and reduced to a founder title with no real power. And then came the salt in the wound. Sweeney rose even higher. Every red carpet, every magazine cover, every headline seemed to confirm her ascendance as Hollywood's new darling, her presence alone reminding Kim of the investment she had lost and the secrets she may have handed over to her own rival. There is no pain sharper for a Kardashian than to be replaced. And yet that is exactly what the insiders whisper. Bezos orchestrated a replacement not in marriage, not in romance, but in business legacy and empire. And what about Lauren Sanchez in this tangled web? Lauren herself has never been shy about positioning herself as more than a billionaire's wife. She has cultivated influence power, a public presence that often overshadows her husband. She knows the game of optics as well as Kim does, perhaps better. And with Kim pressing too close to Bezos, insiders claim Lauren may have drawn the line herself, perhaps even orchestrated the shift towards Sweeney as a strategic wall against Kim's influence. If true, then Kim not only lost her opportunity, she lost it to a rival carefully chosen by a woman who has already proven herself a master manipulator in her own right. What does this all add up to? It paints the picture of a woman who thought she was climbing higher than ever only to discover that the ladder she was on had been pulled away. It paints the story of a billionaire who does not bend to charm or manipulation, but instead uses every advantage offered to him as leverage, and it reveals the brutal truth that in Hollywood and in business age relevance and authenticity often outweigh history. Legacy and even billions of dollars, Kim Kardashian may still be one of the most famous women on the planet. But fame cannot buy what? She lost influence over the next generation, and the chance to be crowned by Bezos as the future of fashion. So as we watch the glittering headlines and glossy campaigns, it is worth asking, the harder question: has Kim already been replaced? Not just in the cultural imagination, but in the boardrooms where real power is decided. Was she outplayed by Bezos, by Lauren, by Sweeney? Or was this simply the inevitable decline of someone who built an empire on smoke and mirrors, only to discover that not everyone can be fooled forever? Imagine for a moment that everything we have uncovered so far was only the beginning, that the whispers of betrayal inside the Kardashian empire, the quiet moves of Lauren Sanchez, the shadow play of Jeff Bezos, and the public unraveling of Kim herself were just setting the stage for something far bigger. Part 4 is where the stakes rise to the highest level, and the audience begins to see the shape of the game behind the game. Because if Kim believed for even 1 second that she could still control the narrative, she quickly learned that she was no longer the one holding the microphone. Every headline, every paparazzi shot, every social media post seemed to be controlled by other forces. Forces that did not need her consent and did not need her approval. Lauren Sanchez by now had stepped fully into the limelight. No longer content to stand beside Bezos as a supporting character. She became the narrative. She became the show. Every yacht trip, every gala appearance, every leaked image was a strategic reminder that Kim had been replaced not just in Jeff's life, but in the global conversation. This was not just a love triangle. This was an empire shift. And for Kim, the realization must have been brutal. She had built her entire brand on being untouchable. She had marketed herself as the blueprint for beauty business and fame. Yet here was someone who not only matched her but outmaneuvered her on the most powerful stage of all global wealth and influence. And so we come to part 5, the final act. The place where the story circles back to the very question we asked in the beginning: what happens when betrayal is not just personal, but financial, political, cultural? What happens when a woman like Kim, who had turned scandal into empire, suddenly finds herself on the losing end of someone else?
How's wedding planning? Is it fun? So you asked.
Lauren Sanchez is done making plans because she's officially
Product
a married
launches or staged paparazzi shots. She tries. The audience will never forget how quickly she was replaced, and by whom Jeff Bezos has no need to spin headlines. Lauren Sanchez. No need to sell fragrances. Their power is not built on consumer illusions, but on raw capital and access to the very corridors of world influence. This is the betrayal of wealth, the betrayal of power, the betrayal of image. It is the moment the Kardashian myth collides with the reality of billionaires who do not play by Hollywood rules. And now, as we close this story, the question lingers. What does it all mean for us, for the audience, for the fans who watched Kim rise, for those who thought scandal was a weapon only she could control? Maybe the real lesson is that there is always a bigger stage, a deeper pocket, a colder game. And maybe the true American horror story is not the rivalry between Kim and Lauren or the betrayal by Jeff, but the realization that even the most carefully constructed celebrity empires can be outplayed in a single move, and so the curtain falls, the lights fade, and we are left with the haunting image of a queen, dethroned not by scandal, but by power.
And Sanchez is a fixture in her fiancé's projects, including Blue Origin, where she revealed she plans to go to space with an all-female team in the future. So guys, a wedding and a trip to space?
Fueled by two engines, visibility and validation. She was never the most talented, never the most artistic, never the most intellectual voice in the room. But she mastered the art of staying relevant, of making sure her name and face were etched into the collective memory of global culture. And for years, that worked. Every scandal only seemed to grow her empire. Every tabloid cover was another advertisement for her brand. Every personal drama became a storyline that she could monetize. But the game shifted the moment she realized she wanted not just fame, but power. Real institutional power that could not be erased by the next trending celebrity or the next viral scandal. And that is when she set her sights on men like Jeff Bezos and rooms where the Kardashian name alone did not carry automatic weight, because unlike Hollywood billionaires do not operate on scandal, they operate on leverage, and in that arena, Kim was stepping onto a battlefield she did not fully control. Imagine the meetings, the private dinners, the closed-door gatherings, where Kim believed she was laying the groundwork for her future. She presented herself as more than an influencer. She spoke about investment firms, reform initiatives, long-term strategies. She wanted to be seen not as a reality TV star, but as a peer among titans. Yet the whispers say every secret she offered, every insight into Skim's operations, every detail of her business ambitions was being logged and analyzed, not for the purpose of supporting her, but for the purpose of using her as a case study, a blueprint, a prototype of what to do and what not to do in building the next cultural juggernaut. And then enter Sydney Sweeney, a woman who on the surface had no connection to this game, but who suddenly became the gravitational center of media attention at Bezos' wedding. Younger, fresher, less burdened with baggage, she became the face onto which the future could be projected. And this is where the betrayal deepens. Because if insiders are correct, Kim was not just overlooked. She was outmaneuvered. Her own ideas, her own strategies, her own empire laid the foundation for an opportunity that was redirected towards someone else. Think about the cruelty of that realization. Kim built Skims from scratch. She used her image, her body, her vulnerabilities as marketing tools. She endured years of mockery about her looks, about her relationships, about her perceived lack of talent, and she turned all of it into a billion-dollar brand, only to watch as the very man she thought would solidify her as a permanent mogul allegedly took her blueprint and handed it to another woman without even blinking. This is not just a business loss, it is a psychological fracture, because Kim has always defined herself by being the first, by being the one to set the trend, by being the standard against which others are measured, and now for the first time she faced the brutal possibility that she was the one being used as the prototype for someone else's success. Add to this the ever-present shadow of Kanye West, because no matter how far Kim tries to run from her past, Kanye remains tethered to her public image. Every new muse he parades, every song he writes, every unpredictable statement he makes keeps her tied to a narrative she would rather escape. And while she is fighting to reinvent herself as a blonde Barbie mogul futurist, brand builder, Kanye continues to remind the world that she was once the centerpiece of his obsession, and that weight only makes it harder for her to compete with someone like Sweeney, who arrives unburdened, fresh, and uncontaminated by years of messy public entanglements. Insiders whisper that Kim may have spiraled during this period, lashing out in subtle ways, chasing headlines that distracted from her losses, pouring money into image projects that had little real impact, staging relationships that felt more strategic than genuine, anything to claw back relevance while the true wound remained hidden behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Lauren Sanchez stood in the background, but not silently. Lauren knows the game. She has been a journalist, a pilot, a figure who has maneuvered through male-dominated spaces with sharp precision. And if the whispers are true, she may have played a key role in making sure Kim did not get too close to Bezos. Lauren has every incentive to protect her territory, not just as his wife, but as a woman who has built her own brand of influence. She would not allow another glamorous, power-hungry woman to infiltrate their circle too deeply, and some insiders even speculate that Lauren herself could have nudged Jeff toward Sweeney, pointing out the advantages of backing someone with a clean slate rather than a woman weighed down by decades of baggage and controversy. If that is true, then Kim was not just rejected by Bezos. She was actively outmaneuvered by Lauren as well, a double betrayal that cuts even deeper. Because Lauren understands the psychology of women like Kim, she knows the hunger for relevance, the desperation for validation, and she may have weaponized that knowledge to ensure her rival was sidelined, and so the picture becomes clearer. Kim Kardashian. Once the master of scandal found herself on the other side of the power dynamic, she thought. She controlled, used, outplayed, and possibly even discarded. And the irony is brutal because Kim herself built her empire on the ruins of others. She rose when Paris Hilton fell. She thrived when other reality stars faded. She consumed attention like oxygen, leaving little room for competitors. But now the same cycle that fueled her rise may be fueling her fall. The spotlight is moving. The attention is shifting. And no matter how desperately she tries to reposition herself, the truth remains that the cultural appetite for authenticity has made her appear outdated, rehearsed, and synthetic against the backdrop of newer, fresher stars. This is why the whispers of lawsuits surfaced, because when someone like Kim loses the one thing she thought was secure, her ego demands retaliation. Sources say she considered dragging Bezos into court, accusing him of manipulating her, of exploiting her business secrets, of using her as a pawn in a larger game. And imagine for a moment what those headlines would have looked like: Kim Kardashian versus Jeff Bezos, the queen of reality television against the king of e-commerce. It would have been the trial of the decade, but it never came to pass, perhaps because even Kim understood that taking on a man with Bezos' resources would be a losing battle, perhaps because she feared exposing her own vulnerabilities in court, perhaps because Lauren herself intervened behind the scenes. Whatever the reason, the lawsuit never materialized. And instead, Kim had to swallow the humiliation in silence. And yet silence is not the Kardashian way. So she did what she always does. She created distractions, she flaunted vacations, she launched products, she staged moments that would dominate headlines for a few days at a time. But for those watching closely, the truth was undeniable. The distractions were growing louder because the pain behind them was growing deeper. Every red carpet, Sweeney graced every headline. Bezos and Lauren generated every new project. Amazon touched reminded Kim of the seat at the table she had been denied, and the empire she thought she would expand now seemed to be shrinking in relevance. She could not stop the comparisons. She could not erase the humiliation, and she could not silence the whispers that her reign as the most influential woman in entertainment was nearing its end. So here is the question that remains: did Kim Kardashian truly get outplayed by Jeff Bezos? Or was this simply the inevitable collapse of an empire built on image rather than substance? Was Lauren Sanchez the hidden architect of her downfall, carefully orchestrating moves to keep her rival at bay? Or was Sydney Sweeney merely a convenient symbol of the cultural shift that was always coming? The truth may lie somewhere in between, but one thing is certain. For the first time in decades, Kim Kardashian is no longer the one writing the script of her own story. She is the one being written about, analyzed, compared, and perhaps even forgotten. And for a woman who has built her identity on control, there may be no greater horror.
This video covers legal allegations in a news context. All claims are from official filings and no guilt is implied until proven in court. Please keep all discussions respectful. Allegations are not facts until proven in court.